Hello and welcome to another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling video podcast type thing, where we take you through another retrospective look of the WWF pay-per-views of yesteryear, courtesy of the WWE Network.
Except not today, because for this episode we're taking a slight shift in gears and looking at Hulk Hogan's 1989 movie, No Holds Barred. Oh god, why?
First of all, let's just set the record straight. This movie absolutely stinks. It was created by Vince McMahon and the Hulkster for one reason and one reason only. Following Hogan's performance as Thunderlips, the Ultimate Male, in the wrestler versus boxer match in Rocky III, Hogan's career as a professional wrestler really took off. And he and Vince were convinced that Hogan deserved a chance to star in a movie of his own to get Hogan a foothold as a leading man in Hollywood, and for the World Wrestling Federation to continue to stretch beyond the ring and into the mainstream. And to that end, both men were not only producers, but also had a huge hand in writing the script, to the point where their fingerprints are fairly obvious throughout the entire film.
Hogan's even said in interviews that he and Vince wrote most of the script over a 48-hour period in a hotel room. That sounds about right, to be honest.
In something that wasn't too much of a stretch of Hogan's wide acting range, he plays the part of the World Wrestling Federation champion, Rip Thomas. And if you don't blink, you might catch Bill Eadie, aka Demolition Axe, in Rip's title defense during the opening credits, whilst Mean Gene O'Gooden and Jesse the Body Ventura are commentating on the match. Rip's wrestling catchphrase is "Rip 'em!", which is accompanied with the Jimmy Snuka I love you hand gesture and the Ric Flair woo face. Rip 'em! You see, he's called Rip because he likes to rip his shirt off, and he likes to rip his opponents apart in the ring.
Wow, that sounds nothing like Hulk Hogan.
So Rip's fans at ringside, the Ripper maniacs, I guess, they even have Rip 'em foam hands to wave in the air. You know, just like Hulk Hogan has. Yeah. Although you'd think that the foam hands would have the same I love you gesture instead of the number one gesture.
What, you mean exactly like the Hulk Hogan foam hands that were available at the time? Like the one we saw Donald Trump with at WrestleMania 5? Yeah, I get the feeling that highly customised foam hands would have gone beyond this movie's budget.
Yes. Well, Rip is a good-hearted and beloved by all do-gooder who would never do anything wrong.
Just like the Hulkster himself.
This is getting awkward.
Yep. In fact, the only major difference between Rip and Hulk Hogan is that Rip wears white and blue wrestling attire instead of yellow and red. Oh, and he has a nerdy brother named Randy that tags along with him for some reason.
Randy? Is he having a dig at Macho Man Randy Savage here? Randy Thomas, which to me sounds like a porn star name, is played by Mark Pellegrino. I'm not very good at pronouncing names. Who would later appear in such TV shows as Supernatural, Lost, Dexter, and Being Human. Thankfully, his acting skills have improved considerably since this film.
According to the film, Rip is the #1 ratings draw not only in wrestling, but in the entire world of television. Wow, I wonder who wrote that line.
Sadly, not everyone is happy about Rip's popularity. In particular, the world's most evil chairman, Mr. McMahon. No, Mr. Brell. He of the rival World Television Network. Brell is pissed that Rip has caused his network to come in dead last. Brell is played by Kurt Fuller, who was also the evil businessman in Wayne's World, and would later star alongside his no-holds-barred co-star Mark Pellegrino in Supernatural as well. Fuller is usually cast in movies and TV shows to be the weaselly businessman, like this. But here, clearly Brell is based on one person and one person only. That is, of course, billionaire Ted Turner. Hey, Vince McMahon, I wonder who wrote this part of the script.
Of course, I'd be tempted to ask exactly how Rip is causing him to fall behind every other network in addition to the one Rip is on, but realistically, that's the least of the plot's issues.
Tormented by his lack of success, Brell turns to his network executives for some new ideas. One of them suggests a high-concept sitcom, but Brell shuts the idea down and tells her, and I'm quoting here, to take a leak.
Well, she leaves anyway, so either she was really offended by such a crappy piece of dialogue, or she really did have to go for a piss. Who knows? And to be honest, at this point, who really cares?
Brell decides the only way to turn things around is to bring Rip to WCW. To WTN. Of course, there's no mention of Brell actually forming his own wrestling TV show at this point, so what he would actually be bringing Rip over to his network to actually do isn't made very clear.
Maybe Rip could star in a Knight Rider-esque TV show where he solves crimes, but instead of being in a car, he's in a boat.
What a ridiculous idea.
Brell produces a blank check and asks Rip to name his price. He'd been doing this earlier on in the film, asking what Rip's price was, but he did it in a very phlegmy fashion.
We're getting to Blakey's Bond. What's his price? That's what I want to know. What's his price? Price. Rip turns down the offer of a blank check because he is so loyal to the company he already works for. Wow, I bet this scene was exactly like the one that occurred when Hogan met Eric Bischoff for the first time. Brell then goes into a mad rage of insane William Shatner-esque levels of hyper-thespian overacting, which involves screaming in an even more phlegmy fashion than before, showering the Hulkster with spit. You trying to tell me that my money's not good enough for you? I find that hard to swallow, you jockass! And he keeps calling Rip a jockass, which may be my new favourite insult. Quite why you would say that to a man with 24-inch arms, dressed like a gay porno version of Flash Gordon, standing right in front of you, is a bit of a mystery.
With Brell's peaceful yet saliva-ridden attempts having now failed him, Rip ends up stuffing the blank check that Brell was offering right down his throat.
I won't be around when this check clears, brother.
At least Ted DiBiase had the decency to do that with cash.
But Brell isn't ready to let Rip get away quite so easily, and arranges for Rip's limo driver to take him to a secluded parking garage. Or garage, sorry if you're American, where his band of thugs is waiting to give him a good old-fashioned kicking. Rip catches on to this evil plan and begins to kick the interior of the car. In fact, he kicks so hard that not only are his footprints visible on the outer car door, the car also swerves uncontrollably all over the road. The driver can barely control the car due to the sheer force behind each one of those big kicks. Despite his best efforts to run the car off the road, using his feet, mind you, Rip is eventually brought to the parking garage of doom. As the hooligans surround the car, a rumbling is heard from inside. And then, wham! Rip punches his way through the roof, somehow launching himself approximately 20 feet into the air.
Rey Mysterio, eat your heart out.
After pummeling his foes into submission with wrestling moves, and his granite-like feet no doubt, Rip then corners the limo driver and snarls at him like a bulldog that is desperately trying to take a shit after a week of being constipated. For whatever reason, this causes the poor guy to literally crap in his kecks out of sheer terror. What's that smell? Dookie! Dookie, you mean you shit your pants?
And just in case that joke wasn't subtle enough for you, we even get a close-up view of the limo driver's soaking wet anal aperture. Classy. Someone open a window.
Open a window? With the size of that shit still, you'll have to knock a whole fucking wall out.
Meanwhile, Brell decides that if Rip won't join him, he'll fight him. So Brell goes to one of the nastiest, grubbiest, sleaziest gentleman's establishments he can find, the No Count Bar.
It's a pub that so happens to have a wrestling ring in the centre, just in case any random pisshead fancies a scrap. There are all sorts of crazy characters hanging around in this establishment, including snorting waitresses with black teeth and a midget that lives in a cage above the ring, for some reason. Obviously that bit was inspired by Jim Cornette.
Another regular patron of the No Count Bar is Bubba, played by real-life wrestler and old Hulk Hogan rival Stan Hansen, who empties an entire keg of beer into his own face after winning a match. God bless America.
Bubba also shows up out of nowhere in the worst gents' toilets ever committed to the silver screen, until Trainspotting topped that years later, and he starts making fun of the size of other guys' dicks. Well, look at what we have here, teeny weeder. And there's another. This leads Brel to finding, yes, you've guessed it, Zeus, the human wrecking machine, aka D-movie actor Tommy Tiny Lister, with a Z, or a Z, shaved into the side of his head. Zeus makes his big entrance by kicking down a wall. Yes, a wall.
He would have been helpful in the car scene earlier.
And picking up one of the waitresses by the face and throwing her across the bar. Jeff Jarrett, meanwhile, is taking notes somewhere. With this unibrowed, boss-eyed behemoth on his side, Brel launches a new TV show entitled, no joke, The Battle of the Tough Guys. With Zeus tearing through the competition, including our man Bubba and some massive guy called Lug Wrench Perkins. Called that because he carries around a lug wrench with him. Lug Wrench Perkins is played by Jeep Sweenston, who would later go on to play Bane in Batman and Robin. What a career he's had.
Vince actually decided to bring Zeus in for a run against Hogan following the movie's release, which is why we're reviewing this movie, really. Zeus will be the main event at the next WWF pay-per-view we'll cover on the podcast, SummerSlam 89, with Zeus teaming up with Macho Man Randy Savage to go against Hogan and his number one Hulkamaniac, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Wait, what?
Yes.
Vince even considered having Hogan vs Zeus one-on-one as the main event of WrestleMania 6. And no, I'm not making this up.
On a side note, not only would Zeus later show up in the WWF to challenge Hogan, but years later during Hogan's WCW run, both Zeus and Lug Wrench Perkins would come into WCW as The Gangster and The Final Solution. Of course, no one in the Turner corporative office realised that The Final Solution was actually the name that Adolf Hitler gave to his plan to wipe out the Jews. Good going there. So the character was very quickly renamed as The Ultimate Solution.
For God's sake.
Zeus not only beats the crap out of Bubba, but he also rips a good chunk of his hair out as well. Makes you wonder if Bubba had made fun of the size of Zeus's pecker in the toilets before the match.
Zeus throws out an open challenge to Rip in a very shouty fashion. It also turns out that Rip's trainer, Charlie, used to train Zeus as well, but he had let him go because he just couldn't control him. He goes on to tell Rip about how Zeus got sent away after killing his opponent in the ring after the bell.
But that's not all Brel has planned for our hero. He also wants to get inside his head. As it turns out that Rip's new marketing executive, Samantha, has actually been hired by Brel to seduce our hero and to besmirch his good name. Samantha is played by Joan Severance, who had also appeared in the likes of See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and had done numerous bits of modelling, including Playboy.
Yeah, about that. Rip tells Samantha near the start of his film that he doesn't believe in marketing the Rip character for money, and that his passion outside of the ring is his charity work. Yeah, Hulk Hogan, he's not interested in money.
This is funny because I'm sure that Hulk Hogan didn't have a problem with his name getting the fuck marketed out of it before. He even had a pasta restaurant opened in his name, for fuck's sake. Hulkamania! Pastamania! Hulkaroos! Eat the pasta, brother!
Oh my god.
Pastamania!
Pasta!
Brother! What's Big Bubba Rogers gonna do when I fill him full of Hulkaroos, brother? Eat the pasta, brother! Eat the goddamn pasta!
Indeed, but what Brel and even Samantha hadn't counted on was this.
It's the sight of Hulk Hogan's barely covered, glistening, sweaty arse thrusted up and down in a rhythmic fashion. I imagine this is what Hogan's infamous sex tape looks like, only without the racist ranting.
And, despite the fact that most people want to be sick or put their own eyes out, Sam actually begins to fall in love with him. What?
After seeing his top people either crap their drawers or moisten their panties at the aura of the almighty Rip, Brel decides to take Zeus's open challenge to Rip a step further by having the Gangster show up at a charity event that Rip is running to confront him eye to eye.
That's probably a bad choice of words.
You can't look me in the eye and call me a coward. I can't look him in the eye, period. I feel that Zeus would have come across as much more of a badass if he then didn't fly away in a helicopter with a rainbow pattern on it. Really, who had the bright idea of flying this psycho around in the rainbow copter of Glee? It looks like the sort of thing you'd see fucking Elmo flying around in on an episode of Sesame Street.
Later on, Rip's brother Randy and his buddy show up at one of Zeus's matches to watch the big guy in action for themselves. Why he felt the need to scout the competition, I have no idea, as Rip already made it clear that he didn't accept Zeus's challenge.
The acting is appalling at this point, as Randy is meant to be looking concerned and worried, but it looks more like he's got the hots for Zeus.
Yeah, well, Zeus doesn't return the feelings. In fact, he beats the ever-loving crap out of Randy and sends him to the hospital.
Rip races to his brother's hospital bed, breaking down in tears. But Hogan's acting is so bad, I think I'd rather see this again. Crippling his brother is enough to finally get Rip to accept Zeus's challenge, leading to a Rocky-style training montage where Rip helps his brother through his rehabilitation and Zeus does a lot of screaming and punching concrete blocks.
There's also a really weird scene where Rip goes to Zeus's gym and smashes up everything, and when he goes to attack Zeus, it turns out that it's just a hologram. Is this in the future now?
Yep. Finally, we come to the big match against Rip and Zeus, which looks like it's been filmed in the Impact Zone. Only the audience have decided to get changed out of their wife-beater vests and put a suit on. Keep it classy, TNA. Zeus is also having fun with a change of wardrobe as well, as he shows up wearing something that he presumably nicked from the set of Power Rangers. Oh well, guess it's better than flying around in a rainbow helicopter.
Rip gets the crap beaten out of him by Zeus because Brel has kidnapped Sam, and promised that she will end up in a wheelchair like Randy if Rip doesn't throw out the match after 10 minutes and make it look good. Apparently the police also don't exist in this universe. Zeus at one point literally rips out one of the metal corner posts and tries to drive it into Rip's skull. That's attempted murder. You wouldn't see that in wrestling in real life.
Oh, you think so? The WWF actually repeated the same spot years later between The Undertaker and a Viking-themed wrestler called the Berserker. Only instead of a ring post, it was the Berserker's sword. Huss! 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 We'll get on to him in due course.
Jesus!
Anyway, Brel's goons are too busy watching the match on the telly to keep an eye on Sam, and she manages to slip away unnoticed.
You'd think that I'd have at least thought to handcuff her to a chair or something. Worst evil security guard minions ever.
Well, I mean, who knows where Brel found the Samantha woman? He'd hired her to sleep with Rip, so you never know. I mean, maybe she would have quite liked the idea of being handcuffed to a chair.
Okay, stop right there, please.
Sam manages to escape from the clutches of Brel's pursuing goons thanks to Rip's trainer and his friends coming to her rescue. When Rip realises that Sam is at ringside, he starts to, well, hulk up and make his big comeback. Except this time we're seeing him hulking up in slow motion, and it looks like something from a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
The fight spills from the ring into the crowd, where Zeus gives Randy another kicking and starts lobbing fans from the audience at Rip. Seriously.
You know, they should bring Zeus back, because you're going to stop people jumping over the barricades at WWF shows if Zeus is there. Well, in fact, they won't jump over the barricades. Zeus will just fucking grab them and throw them. He'll use one motherfucker to beat up another motherfucker. Just like, oh, that was in between Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns not too long ago. Bray Wyatt actually picked up one of the camera guys and actually threw him at Roman Reigns.
Did he?
Yeah, I was like, tremendous. That's just like in No Holds Barred. So yeah, Brel is going insane and destroying the equipment in the TV control room, causing electrical sparks to fly everywhere. Guess how this is going to end. Rip prevails by knocking Zeus off a balcony, falling 20 feet below, through the ring, and presumably to his death. Call it a victory for Rip at the 12-minute 41-second mark. Well, if we're timing it like it's a proper wrestling match. Brel's death follows soon after that, as he backs away from Rip right into the exposed electrical generator. What a jockass. You stay away! You stay away! You jockass!
And so everyone lives happily ever after, except for Brel and Zeus, because they're dead.
So, final thoughts on the film. If you were a kid when the film first came out, then you may remember it fondly. But if you watch it today, you will be stunned at just how cheesy it is and how uncomfortably uneven its tone is. 1 minute it becomes a comedy, with Rip stopping an attempted armed robbery by throwing pies at the baddies' faces. I mean, they've got fucking guns, but whoa, they don't stand a chance. He's throwing pies at us. What are we going to do?
Maybe you'll throw a roll next. You never know.
And then it starts to get uncomfortable when Randy gets crippled and Sam gets sexually harassed by one of Brel's goons. Although Hogan does absolutely fine in the wrestling scenes, as expected, when it comes to trying to invoke some emotion or some sexual tension between himself and Sam, it just comes across as awkward, and it feels like something like Days of Our Lives, which isn't a compliment, by the way. What's your final thoughts on this, Little Daddy E?
Well, it's absolutely terrible. There's just cheese everywhere. It's like worse than a delicious sandwich. Also, there's this scene.
In terms of both acting and script, No Holds Barred is painfully terrible. It gets a thumbs down from us here, and it's no wonder that its rating on Rotten Tomatoes was like, less than 10%?
Ugh.
That's even less than Dragon Ball Evolution and that new Fantastic Four movie.
Wow. just wow.
So, in conclusion, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Big Daddy D Reviews. We are on Twitter at The Big Daddy D1. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/All-CAW Wrestling 1. As well as my second channel, youtube.com/The Big Daddy D Reviews 1. Please take the time to like and share this video, as well as dropping us a few comments. All that good stuff. Show us some love.
So, the next time we'll take a trip to the WWF of yesteryear, where we will see Hogan and a presumably zombified Zeus continue their feud in real life, as they collide in the main event at SummerSlam 89 with their mates Beaver and Macho. But before that, our next episode will see us heading back to WCW for the Flair vs Steamboat rematch at Wrestle War 1989.
But until then, this is the Big Daddy D
And the Little Daddy E.
And we're signing off on another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling video podcast type thing. Bye! I'm going to go shave a letter into my head now.
Maybe a D.
Are you trying to say I should have a big D on my head?
Yes.
That just sounds wrong.
But not as wrong as this.